The views expressed in this podcast are solely those of the podcast host and guest and do not necessarily represent those of our distribution partners, supporting business relationships, or supported audience. Welcome to Transacting Value, where we talk about practical applications for instigating self-worth when dealing with each other and even within ourselves, where we foster a podcast listening experience that lets you hear the power of a value system for managing burnout, establishing boundaries, fostering community, and finding identity. My name is Josh Porthouse. I'm your host, and we are redefining sovereignty of character. This is why values still hold value. This is Transacting Value.
I never had a chance to do something good for the world. I always wanted to, but an opportunity never came up until Autism Rocks and Rolls was made.
Today on Transacting Value, knowing who you are is only half of our growth journey. Understanding how you come across to people is entirely another. Today we're talking with Sam Mitchell, and he's the host of Autism Rocks and Rolls podcast and also the founder of Autism Rocks and Rolls nonprofit corporation in Indiana. We're talking all about understanding how who you are and who you come across in society sometimes is not as important as helping other people develop their awareness about you. I'm Josh Porthouse. I'm your host. And from SDYT Media, this is Transacting Value. Sam, what's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, buddy. Good to be here. Thanks for having me on. I just was helping out some friends before we got started cleaning up their truck.
Sure. No, I appreciate you making some time, man. I understand there's a lot of other things that can take up your schedule, especially you're in college now, right?
Oh, God, yeah. Third year. No, crap. Yep, last year. My bad. Last year of broadcasting as a student. I hopefully will be getting an associate's degree afterward.
Yeah, congratulations. What do you want to do with broadcasting?
Radio.
Okay. All right, perfect. Well, then I have a strong feeling we'll be staying in touch. I'd love to follow along with your journey as well. But so tell me about it, man. Let's break it down a little bit for everybody who's listening in and watching this video. Who are you? Where are you from? What sort of things are you paying attention to?
I'm Sam Mitchell. I run the podcast Autism Rocks and Rolls. It's a podcast about autism and how we cope with daily struggles that you may or may not understand. Through the podcast, it's grown so much. I've helped sponsors, a board of 8. I also do speaking engagements. I've also spoken at Oklahoma, Orlando 3 times, Canada twice, Stuart, Florida, and Washington, D.C. I'm also an event planner in Indiana. We have one coming up in December, which will be Breakfast with Santa. So that'll be kind of fun. We get to have the kids get pictures with Santa, have a pancake breakfast, and then hopefully after, we'll be having a cookie eating contest, like Christmas cookie contest.
Nice. To make them or eat them?
Both. You got to make them. You're going to get the judges, who they are, probably my grandparents. And they're going to be judged on flavor and presentation.
Perfect. I love it. So what is it about autism you think gets so misunderstood by people?
That we can't do squat. That we can't do anything. That I'm not capable of cleaning up a truck, for example, for a basis. But the fact is they don't think we could do anything. There's a whole population of the autism that is, they consider, and I hate this word, but this is the only way to describe it, low functioning, where they can't use the bathroom on their own. They're in a wheelchair bound. They don't brush their teeth. And that's some. I'm not going to deny it. But there's also a population like myself who actually goes to college and who's actually works and helps out when he can. And may I also add, is just living life to an extent.
So how do you convey that, though? I mean, you're not a teacher, you know what I mean? Is this through your podcast and through the corporation?
As much as I don't like to say myself, I'm a teacher, I kind of come from it. My mom's a teacher. She teaches 8th grade English. In essence, the best way I do it is through the podcast to show people this is what you think autism is. And to a point, you're right, but it's not everything what you think.
Sure. Well, it's a spectrum, right? So there's some on one end, some on another.
People forget that. People forget it's a spectrum.
Yeah.
And it's also so frustrating that they don't understand our social issues with patients, with having foot and mouth syndrome, no filter. That's something I got. Crippling anxiety.
Yeah.
I don't understand effective communication. So when I say effective communication, I'm not talking about conversations, although I kind of am not the best with that either. I'm talking about the eye rolls, the facial expressions, gestures, body language. I don't pay attention to it. And it's not that I don't choose to. It's the fact I literally can't because I'll overthink it.
Oh, interesting. So you consciously tune it out to just listen to the words or whatever the
Yep, I have
conversation
to.
is.
Because if I looked at it, I would be like, oh crap, what did their eye rolls mean?
Okay. Okay. So you just got done with a keynote speech, though. You just got done with all these speaking engagements. How'd it go?
I think it went good. People thought I was funny, and they liked the presentation style. So I guess it did something right.
Yeah, man. Good job. Good job. But then for yourself, identifying all this, I mean, to a certain degree, the amount of self awareness that you've grown into and that you've learned is exponentially more than, have most of the population in the United States, especially. So is that a conscious effort? Is that like just natural to you? Did it take effort? How'd you figure it out and learn about yourself?
I'm so sorry, buddy. I'm afraid I don't understand your question.
Oh, cool. So what I'm asking is to better understand how you prefer to learn and how you prefer to have conversations with people. How'd you figure it out?
What I had to do was I socialized my way. You don't like it, get out. I know
Mm,
it sounds cruel, but it's the only way I can do it because if I socialize the way people do, it just doesn't make sense. One way is, for example, when you make friends, most of the time they happen naturally, right? Like you don't
sure.
have to ask if they're in or out. I can't do that. Like I'm going through this right now. Literally last week, I asked people who I thought were interested in being a friend, instead of letting it happen naturally, are you interested in hanging out? I mean, are you in or out?
Hmm. Okay. And so that amount of clarity makes the difference in your personal life, making new friends and in your social life, right?
Mm-hmm. And that's what helps a lot too in life is clarity. Straight communication is a lot of times when those on the spectrum don't like literal thinking. So when he's like, oh, I'm pulling your leg, they're going to think you're literally pulling their leg off.
Sure. Okay. Well, then what about now for you as a student? Because every teacher you have, I'm sure, isn't teaching the same way that works for you. So,
Right. Well, the way I do it is I'm pretty direct with them. Like, I'll tell you, listen, this is what's going to have to happen for me to be successful or it's not going to work. And I'm not like, it's not like in a mean, rude tone. It's very fair, and respectful, but it's like also kind of firm.
yeah.
I think one of my professors doesn't like it, but that's the way I know how to communicate. I came from a family where we do not hold back.
Well, okay. So let's talk about that a little bit. I mean,
I think she doesn't.
you're what?
I said I think this professor doesn't,
Oh, sure, sure.
but maybe I'm wrong because
Well,
I'm overreading it.
maybe not, because everybody overthinks things and gets anxious from time to time. But your upbringing, the environment that you were raised in, I'm sure that helped to develop your awareness about how people communicate and yourself, right? What was that like?
I would say so because in my retrospect, my family was always important to teach me you better self advocate for yourself because mom and dad aren't going to be here forever. Now, thankfully, I have them still in my life and they still have advocated for me before. But since I was an itty bitty boy, I was raised to speak up. And when it comes to your rights, know them, first of all. If you think they're not following the law, speak up because
Hmm.
there are laws for those with autism.
Yeah. I talked to a lady a couple weeks ago now, and she was telling me that of all her travels all around the world, her dad worked at different embassies in different countries everywhere. And while she was growing up, she traveled him around, followed him around. And she said one of the things that she learned was that everybody in the world that she came across communicates in three different ways. One of them tends to be real objective, kind of fact oriented, not, by the books. The other tends to be a little bit more subjective in their feelings and um, sort of more shallow in their topics. And then the other group tends to be a bit more subjective, but a little deeper in their topics, which is generally where I prefer to sit in my conversations. But so, for example, this shirt is blue. I feel like this shirt is blue, or why is this shirt blue? Are three different types that she was talking about. And I've got some friends who are autistic and function on their own. They live on their own. They drive vehicles. But they tend to perceive the world more objectively because the emotions that people exhibit can be overwhelming, kind of like you talked about before.
Yeah, hey, a great example of that is I don't cry at funerals. Because I get where this is going. Because honestly, here's my reason why. And it's not the fact I'm not crying because I'm mad that they died or I'm not upset. Of course I'm upset. But let me ask you this. Do tears bring back the dead?
No.
So why do it?
Okay.
There's no point. Do I sit there more and more respectfully? Of course I do. I'm devastated that my grandfather passed away. And this did really happen, by the way, unfortunately.
Well, sorry.
But, thank you. And at that funeral, did I shed a tear? No. Because I knew if I did, it wasn't going to bring him back to life.
Alrighty, folks, sit tight and we'll be right back on Transacting Value.
Pass it on.
Here's my bucket list for the day. Read an article on a news subject. Say only nice things about others. And listen to everyone's opinions. Because making things better requires change. Now, these changes aren't going to show up on your news feed, but they're things I can do. So change something today. It's not going to change the entire world, but it's going to change your world. Change is in you.
Pass it on.
From passiton.com.
Do I sit there more and more respectfully? Of course I do. I'm devastated that my grandfather passed away. And this did really happen, by the way, unfortunately.
Well, sorry.
But, thank you. And at that funeral, did I shed a tear? No. Because I knew if I did, it wasn't going to bring him back to life.
Do you think that's generally your pattern to process the world a bit more logically, a bit more realistic? And does that help?
Yeah, it can. Sometimes it's too real, I believe. But then I'm also not afraid to be unreasonable, but not harmful. So, like,
What do you mean?
a great example is coming out with out-of-the-box solutions and following through. That may be unusual, but no one's getting hurt or bleeding or dying. A great example is it was actually in December of a couple years ago, I think, maybe a little before that. I had my wisdom tooth removed. And wisdom tooth surgery, God, probably the worst surgery I've ever been through. Felt pretty bad, and my parents tried, and it was just got so bad one night, like I couldn't even think. Like I was literally about to be on my deathbed, I felt like.
Yeah.
So then I suggested to my mom, can we just go to the parking lot and wait? And maybe this for me to relax, because in my brain, I could trick myself into thinking, okay, look, I'm not getting help, but at least I'm at the building. And in my brain, that's enough for me to say, okay, at least I'm here.
Okay. All right. So then you start to process whatever the stimuli are in pieces at a pace you can manage, right?
In retrospect, sure.
Okay. Does that always work?
It can to a point, but when you're sometimes too sensitive, like me who has sensory issues, that don't work. I mean, it doesn't work every time I go in the rain because I hate my clothes getting wet, mainly my shirt.
So then you just avoid the rain entirely then?
No, there's stuff we got, like umbrellas.
Okay.
So there's something for that, an umbrella, duh.
Right. But so there's still ways to work around all of these things.
Right. That's what I think. When there's a will, there's a way. And honestly, if there's a way that's a little out of the crazy wound, I'm going to do it.
Well, good. Because I think everything you're describing makes you 100% normal. Everybody else is going through the same things. Like, I get overstimulated in public speaking experiences. It's taken me 3 years to put this podcast on video just because of nerves and anxiety, right? So what we did instead was produce it at a pace that I was more comfortable with, my style, my look, my whatever, conversation pattern. And then, okay, now we can put it on video because we've got a better routine or because I feel more comfortable with it or whatever it is. And I think that's the case with everybody. You learn as you grow and build experience and you figure out things that work and things that don't. But in your case, you said you also advise corporate clients or businesses how to work with people with autism, right?
Right. I've done a conference in Washington, D.C. called the Neurodiversity in the Workplace. That conference was really about employees trying to learn how to work with those with autism because they want to hire them because they're great employees, but they do not know how to handle their socializing, their quirks. They wanted to, but just didn't know how to. And I was told them, like, you need to give them a chance because we all deserve it, don't we?
Sure. Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, just because you view the world differently than I do doesn't make you any less normal experiencing the world compared to me. There's still things I don't like that I got to figure out how to cope with and process. I just show it differently than you, but I show it differently than any other person as well, like you compared to anybody else you know. So I don't think you're that abnormal. In fact, I think you're a bit more courageous, if anything, than people are giving you credit for. How many other people? Let me ask you this.
Thanks, bud.
Absolutely. Let me ask you this. As far as nonprofit work is concerned, you said Autism Rocks and Rolls is a nonprofit, right?
Yep, it's a podcast, which is the name, and then the only way it's just a nonprofit is we just add the word corporation after Autism Rocks and Rolls.
Okay. All right. Sweet. I like simplicity. So, did you know, according to the Department of Labor, and this is for 2023, since 2024 is not over yet, that there were something like I think it was 1.9 million nonprofits registered in the United States. Did you know that?
There's a lot out there. I figured there was, though.
Absolutely. And those 1.9 million nonprofits employ, on average, from 2023, 5.5 million employees around the country. Even if it's one nonprofit with one person, still, right? It still counts. But all of those organizations are responsible for over $1 trillion in revenue for 2023 into the U.S. economy. However, how many hundreds of millions of people are living in the United States? So for 1, 2%, or whatever it comes to, of people to have the courage to even start a nonprofit, let alone provide a service and help everybody else, to advocate to create jobs, you're already in a super small percentage of really successful people, in my opinion. So I don't see what autism has to do with any of that as a detriment. In fact, it sounds like your autism is your superpower.
It has been. And at points, I'm not going to lie, it can get frustrating. Because honestly, like, for example, if I didn't ask, like, are you in or out? My stomach flip-flops. Like, it feels awful. Like, I feel nauseated. I'm surprised I'm not thrown up over it. And do I like doing it? No. But in my brain, do I have to do it because I'm going to puke my guts out? Yes.
Sure. Well, like we said, clarity is hard to come by. You know something? I've deployed all over the world. Most of my career has been in the infantry with the Marine Corps.
Well, hey, it's Veterans Day, so thank you for your service.
I appreciate that. Thank you for saying that. But in deploying all over the world, I've been very nervous, very scared, very anxious, very depressed for a bunch of different reasons over the last 15, almost 16 years. And one thing that I've learned is having some confidence in who you are and an awareness of how you come across to other people can really help to manage a situation in your favor. Do you think that's the case also?
Yeah. But I also, I agree with you. And part of the reason is I'm not afraid to sugarcoat. I don't sugarcoat things. I will tell you straight up how it is. Like, my advice, it's not tough love. It's just the truth, in my opinion.
Sure. But getting feedback, like, social feedback, somebody to say, for example, I don't want to be your friend. People tend to mask that and put up a facade and say, smile to your face, but really they're not your friend. So I think, like in your case, finding a shortcut that works to know who can be loyal to you and who you can be vulnerable with, that's important. And I don't think a
It
lot of
is.
people do it.
It is, man. I agree. I 100% agree with you. Because here's why. If you're too vulnerable, someone's going to take advantage of you. If you're too loyal, someone's going to take advantage of you.
Mhm.
If you're too defensive, though, people want to think you're an ass.
Alrighty, folks, sit tight and we'll be right back on Transacting Value. Join us for Transacting Value, where we discuss practical applications of personal values every Monday at 9 a.m. on our website, transactingvaluepodcast.com, Wednesdays at 5 p.m. and Sundays at noon on wreathsacrossamerica.org/radio.
If you're too vulnerable, someone's going to take advantage of you. If you're too loyal, someone's going to take advantage of you.
Mhm.
If you're too defensive, though, people want to think you're an ass.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And so learning how to determine who you can trust, who you're willing to work with, I think helps. But one thing I've also noticed is people tend to gravitate towards other people that share their perspectives or have similar viewpoints on the world, for safety or whatever. Do you find that that's similar for you?
No, actually, because it's made the case with some friends. Some of my friends have similar beliefs, and some of my friends have similar interests.
Mhm.
But that's not all of them. All of them sometimes is just because I like your personality. Like my rule to be around me is you have to be nice and just know right from wrong.
Mm.
If you know that, I'll take you in. And I may not share the same beliefs as you or share the same moral compass as you, but am I still going to disregard you for that? No. I mean, I'm not going to disregard my friends who went rail fanning. Am I going to know squat about a train? No. But am I going to do it with them because I want to spend time with them? Yes. And hey, at the end of the day, it makes them happy. So as long as they're happy, I'm happy.
Sure. I think there's very few genuine people like you in the world that are willing to be vulnerable up front in the name of clarity, to deepen relationships and actually get to know people. I think exactly what you're doing, everybody should be taking notes because the perspective that you have on the world, I don't think it's wrong. It's certainly different because, like I said, it's not fake. It's not fabricated. And you know who you are. You know how you come across to people. That's powerful insight, man. I think, if anything, you're selling yourself short just as a student. I think you've got way cooler and way more potential in your future coming your way after the fact. What are your plans?
We'll see. But that's part of it. But maybe work at a radio station. I mean, a lot of people have always wanted to go to the big stars. It's just not me. I mean, I get these opportunities. Maybe one day we'll grow Autism Rocks and Rolls, but I want to definitely remember my roots, and my roots was Autism Rocks and Rolls, but Autism Rocks and Rolls is podcast, and podcasting is at the end of the day a form of radio.
Mhm.
So I just want to be a small town boy radio station, kind of, is what I've been thinking. But hey, if I can grow Autism Rocks and Rolls into a bigger nonprofit like Goodwill, I'm happy with that too.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. Are you familiar with a media corporation called Beasley Media Group?
Mm-mm.
So I can't remember their website. You'll have to look it up. But Beasley Media Group started in the 1950s. And I think his name was Sam also, but I can't remember now. Either way, Mr. Beasley, we'll call him, started the entire corporation with a local radio station in his small town. And he did it for 2 years before he was able to buy another radio station and then expand his reach and further distribute. Since then, over the last 70 years or so now, since it started, Beasley Media Group is one of the most profitable media companies based in the United States, with the most radio stations, television channels, and print publication outlets for their broadcast media empire that it's become now.
Geez, I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, man. And it started with small town radio. So
Wow.
you never know, dude. There's so many cool opportunities. And with enough ambition and willpower, anything's possible. It just takes time. So let me ask you this. This is a segment of the show that I call developing character.
Developing character.
And there's a reason for this. I think everybody's value systems are the shortcuts to identity and relationships and communication. And so it's 2 questions. Answer however you like. But my first question is, as you were growing up, what were some of the values that you were exposed to, some of the qualities of life that you think started to impact you as a kid? Anything stand out?
Well, I mean, maybe kind of dark, but talking about the good, I mean, it wasn't all good for me. I dealt with exclusion, bullying, and stereotyping, man. And it got to the point where I think I danced with the devil at an early age. A lot of it was internal, just because I was just frustrated, and because no matter what I tried, I got pushed off for being different. And it pushed me into a doomsday.
Yeah.
President ended up in Davy Jones' locker.
Yeah, just a spiral, I bet. And so dealing with all that, I mean, building your perspective, resiliency, how you viewed all of this bullying and stuff, what was that like?
Oh, awful, man. It got so bad that a lot of people didn't know this. Not parents didn't know it until I told them. As an adult, at the age of 15, I wanted to drink.
Yeah.
Because I thought in my eyes it'd just be easier to sleep it off.
Well, that's not true. Yeah.
I know that now, but I didn't see that at 15.
Yeah, no, I get that. I was the smallest kid in my class until probably I went to college. I don't think I even broke 5 feet tall until partway through high school. And I didn't really have any social skills to speak of, in my opinion, especially in hindsight. But I'll tell you, it wasn't for the bullying, if it wasn't for the amount of exclusion that, at least in my head, I felt because I didn't know how to fit into any of these groups, I don't know that I would have gotten to where I am now, because it gave me perspective. It gave me something to compare to, because I never want to feel that way again. And so now I have a podcast talking to people, and in my case, to learn better how people communicate. So you never know. There's all sorts of benefits that may help you out as you grow into the future as well. Saying that, I have another question for you, though. So now that you're older, you're not 15 anymore, of all the life experience you've gained, what are some of your values now that you find important to you?
You don't judge a person based on their wrongings, but their rights. You see, are they a good person just by being kind to one another? I'm not a guy who judges a person on smartness. Should I? I probably should. But it's a smart thing, but it's not the right thing.
Absolutely. How do you communicate that to other people? How do you communicate that to your friends? Just tell them repeatedly and hope it sticks? Or what works?
Hopefully, we sometimes have deep conversations, and once you get to know each other, then they don't feel good about themselves or anything like that. They'll know, like, I'll tell you, look, I'm not a guy who judges you based on, one stupid decision you made. Now, there's a line. I do believe there is a line. That's just my opinion. But do I think, though, you make one mistake, you're screwed? No. We all make them. We're human. But are you kind enough to like, well, yeah, I'm not going to take it out on you. Okay, you're good. Or are you going to learn from this lesson? Yeah. Okay, you're good.
Sweet. Yeah. And that's a hard lesson learned too. Because even, I don't know, whatever normal is, and if this conversation's taught anybody anything who's listening to this, myself included, or watching this, depending on what platform you're looking at it on, I have no idea what normal is. I don't know. Because to me, we're all on a spectrum of normal. So I don't think it makes any difference until you start saying this group shares this perspective on the world, or this group shares this perspective on the world. Well, then you're more like that group, or you're more like that group. But all of you are still normal. And I think everything you're describing right now, Sam, is exactly common. Nobody wants to deal with people that are rude or unkind to people. Everybody wants to hang out with somebody who's truthful and authentic and genuine and just a good person. So I think exactly what you're saying is about as truthful and as honest
Yeah.
and objective as it could be.
And honestly, your past don't matter to me now, and it shouldn't, because I had one of the guests, Jake the Snake Roberts from wrestling.
Did you really?
If you would have, yeah.
I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna write it down right now so I can look it up.
Well, this is his past for you, in case you don't know. He's had drug abuse, clearly. I think that's been documented. His dad beat the crap out of him as a child for nothing.
Mm.
His I think, stepmom sexually assaulted him. And currently he has 2 grandchildren with autism and cerebral palsy. And now, today, he has COPD, which means he has trouble breathing.
Sure.
But despite having trouble breathing, despite having his body invaded when he didn't want it, and despite getting punched by his dad, he's still cracking and going with his grandchildren.
Yeah, that's a powerful lesson too.
Your past doesn't have to define you, really.
Alrighty, folks, sit tight, and we'll be right back on Transacting Value.
This message is from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. VA disability compensation is a monthly tax-free payment to veterans who got sick or injured in the military and to veterans whose service worsened an existing condition. You may qualify for VA disability compensation for physical and mental health conditions that developed or worsened due to service. Learn more at va.gov/disability.
Your past doesn't have to define you, really.
Absolutely not. I mean, it's important to know how you got to where you are, I think, so you don't repeat it if you don't want to. It gives you options. But I agree, it certainly doesn't define who you are as a person. Doesn't have to anyway. So your podcast then, Autism Rocks and Rolls, it's not only about autism, or what is it about?
I put on their inspiring stories. I talk about the autism behaviors. Sometimes I interview perspectives and their beliefs. But some of them aren't. They're literally like, if you have to have Down syndrome, OCD, I want to make it as inclusive as possible. One can even just be a simple, inspiring story. One great story, Amberly Snyder was on there once, but she was going down truck and barrel racing. Well, unfortunately, in January of 2010, I think it was January, maybe February, I'm not for sure. Sometime in the 2010s, I think, she had a truck accident, flipped it upside down, paralyzed her from the waist down. Doctors said, you're not going to barrel race anymore because it's not possible with paralyzed legs, in the doctor's opinion. Amberly's response wasn't this exactly, screw you, I'm going to do it. And she is barrel racing today.
Really?
Yes.
Without the use of her legs?
Without the use of her legs. I think she has sources, but yeah.
Wow.
It's a great one. Mandy Harvey. Unfortunately, she was a musician, I think, before, but and I think she had an ear infection, got sick, and that ear infection caused her to lose her hearing. Today, she's still playing music.
How is that possible?
Apparently, she takes her shoes off, and apparently she feels the vibes through the floor.
A minute. Is this the lady that was on like America's Got Talent or something?
Bingo.
With what was it, red hair, I think, glasses or something?
Yep. Yep.
I saw this. It was what did she played a ukulele.
Yep, that's her.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. There are so many underrated superpowers in the world, is my theory. Like your shirt, I haven't seen anybody climb walls like Spider-Man, right? But
thanks,
dude, unbelievable. So the things that people can do when you have a little bit of hope and purpose and self-awareness, to me, is is unbelievable. I mean, it's like, have you ever seen Dragon Ball Z?
My best friend loves Dragon Ball Z.
So do I. And to me, discovering or when somebody discovers that hook or that skill set or that understanding that they have and it changes them, it's like that Super Saiyan transformation. But like the first time it happened in the series, and you're like, oh my gosh, look what I've, you made it to a new level. You know what I mean? You've become a new version of you. And there's no going back, I don't think. What kinds of opportunities? I mean, you mentioned speaking engagements, you mentioned the event planning, and obviously the cookie eating contest coming up here for Christmas. But like, what is this movement becoming for you? What is it doing? Is it raising awareness?
It's giving parents hope for one thing, because when you look at online, there's not a lot of positive resources. I'm gonna be honest. We did the assessment, and it's like when you get a diagnosis, the parents think their life is over.
Yeah.
That is a load of BS. My life's parents was not over. Now, did she mourn after getting a diagnosis for a couple of days? Yeah, not because she hated it. She was scared that my child's not going to make it in this world.
Sure.
Well, and I get it. Every parent worries about that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have children or daughters. You probably worry about that regardless if they had autism or not.
Sure.
Well, today, though, with autism, I'm in college. I just got done hanging out with friends. How am I not making it?
Yeah.
And I know my mom knows, hey, he's making it. But there's some people he's like, well, he's still got that autism.
Yeah. So they
And
are
that's
out
my
there.
thought.
Yeah.
I agree with you. But there's some like, oh no, he's got that autism. He's not going to make it still.
You know what's interesting about that point, though, Sam? It was the same thing in the 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s of all sorts of other different things and diagnoses that didn't mesh up with whatever everybody else was being
Right.
told at
And
their
I should have
doctor's
mentioned,
appointments.
in my opinion, I forgot to mention that. So, in my opinion, we are aware of it now, but we're still not accepting of it.
Mhm.
Because there's still people who like, well, why is he doing that?
Yeah. Well, it's education, and education takes time. There's way more, I think, that you can put out into the world now in 2024 digitally in broadcast media than you could in 1952 broadcast media. So, of all the places where you could be desiring to plant yourself to spread this awareness, I think you're in exactly the right spot, dude. I think it's brilliant, exactly how you're structuring this and putting it together.
Right. I just want to do something good for the world. I've always have had a servant's heart. I've always wanted to just help out this population too, but I never had a chance to like do something good for the world. I've always wanted to, but an opportunity never came up until
Yeah.
Autism Rocks and Rolls was made.
Sure. Sure. Now, I haven't gone to your website yet and looked at your whole catalog for all your episodes, but have you considered or have you already had somebody like Temple Grandin or somebody?
Yep. I met Temple Grandin. I've had Mick Foley on, Kane on as two. Some American Idol contestants, America's Got Talent contestants, a lot of people with inspiring stories. It's just unbelievable, these people I've had, what they can do despite their condition. Great example, another one. Mama Anna. She recently just got on AGT. When you talk to her, stutters. Extremely stuttering. But when she sings, it stops.
Wow. Why is that? Did she say?
That's a question for Amanda, not me.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. But it's like you brought up earlier, man. Once you find out whatever degree of awareness you've got about yourself, you can start to find ways to work around it and make it work for you. And I think that alone is a huge revelation that you're spreading to the world, man. I congratulations. I think it's awesome. I have two more questions for you for the sake of time. One of them, of all of the things that you've learned so far talking to people on your show, Autism Rocks and Rolls, throughout the course of your own life, talking to people, family, friends, whatever, how do you view now your own self worth compared to the 15-year-old you when you were getting bullied and pretty low?
Well, it's better than it once was, but there's definitely still some days bad days where I feel like I'm reliving 15 years old. But in reality, it's just people being busy.
That's interesting.
I mean, I get we all have lives, but I feel like you can still make time for each other.
Well, yeah, that needs to be spread around a lot more often. I agree with you. And I'm guilty of it too. But I agree 100%. Sam, for anybody that wants to listen to your show, get involved with your nonprofit, invite you out to be a speaker, whatever it is, how can people reach out and get in touch with you?
You can find me on your favorite media platform. I'm not a hard guy to find. If you find me on Podbean, Spotify, YouTube, it's pretty easy to find me. If you Google me in your search engine optimization, something will pop up.
Okay. All right. And for everybody who's new to my show, depending on the player you're streaming this conversation on or watching it on, you can click see more, show more, or in the drop down for it. You'll also see links then to Autism Rocks and Rolls website, and then be able to get in touch with Sam through social media as well. And then you can find him that way. Sam, this has been a super cool conversation, dude. I'm so glad you made some time in your schedule to be able to sit and talk and come on the show. I can't say enough. I really appreciate what you're doing and your perspective and your courage and confidence and clarity to explain it to people in a way that makes sense. I think you're going in exactly the right direction that you need to be, man. Keep doing what you're doing.
I'll keep trying. Thank you again.
Absolutely. For everybody else to listen to all of our other conversations, go to our website, transactingvaluepodcast.com. You can click on the home screen, a little button on the right that says leave a voicemail. You got 2 minutes, audio time, all yours. Let us know what you think of this conversation. We can forward it on to Sam as well if you guys have questions. If you guys want to let him know any of your insight as well. Maybe you've got resources he's unfamiliar with or resources he can have on his show. Leave it in a voicemail on our homepage as well. Guys, I appreciate this opportunity. And until next time, that was Transacting Value.
Thank you to our show partners. And folks, thank you for tuning in and appreciating our value as we all grow through life together. To check out our other conversations, or even to contribute through feedback, follows, time, money, or talent, and to let us know what you think of the show, please leave a review on our website, transactingvaluepodcast.com. We also stream new episodes every Monday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time through all of your favorite podcasting platforms like Spotify, iHeart, and TuneIn. You can now hear Transacting Value on Reads Across America Radio Eastern Standard Time, Wednesdays at 5 p.m., Sundays at noon, and Thursdays at 1 a.m. Head to readsaccrossAmerica.org/transactingvalue to sponsor a wreath and remember, honor, and teach the value of freedom for future generations. On behalf of our team and our global ambassadors, as you all strive to establish clarity and purpose, ensure social tranquility, and secure the blessings of liberty or individual sovereignty of character for yourselves and your posterity, we will continue instigating self-worth, and we'll meet you there. Until next time, that was Transacting Value.